president stating that he is grateful to the Supreme Court and will promptly move forward with ending birthright citizenship. The president also stating that the Constitution has been brought back. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Madeline Somerville, attorney and political strategist who, quite honestly, have been very patient in joining us right here on the Live Zone. Madeline, I know you got about 2 or 3 minutes, and so I want to jump right into it. In this case, I want you to touch on the big ruling that affects us right here in Montgomery County. I'm referring to the decision by the court that surrounds whether or not parents can opt their students out of school lessons. Your response to this?
Sure. Let me break this down a little bit because I think there's some misinformation that's coming out of the White House. So what has been restricted is the ability for schools to make this curriculum that involves LGBTQ students or LGBTQ information being available to students, right? Whether it's a book that contains a story about LGBT kids or whatever it is, right? The curriculum isn't changing. The thing that's allowed now is that parents have to be notified that their kids are being exposed to this, and then they get to choose whether or not they want their kids to be exposed to it. So really the requirement there is that they're being notified of it, but the curriculum itself does not change.
We're going to touch on this in a little bit more in just about a minute or two. I know I have you about a minute left, and so I want to make sure you touch on this as well, and that is the other big ruling by the Supreme Court backing President Trump's efforts to curtail lower court orders that have hampered his agenda for months. In essence, the president now has more power than an actual judge.
Yes. So the big complaint that came out of the Trump administration this whole time has been that there are quote unquote rogue judges and that the judges are just doing whatever they want and asserting their power and authority over the president. Now, the way that our government is structured is such that the judges provide a check on the president and that we as citizens have a right to be able to assert our claim to those rights that we have, like the First or Second Amendment, whatever it is, regardless of what a president decides. And so what was decided in this case is that each person whose rights are violated has to come to court and advocate for it. The judge cannot blanketly say that people who are non-parties to the case are going to be impacted by this. So essentially each individual person who, for example, has a child in the United States that is not a citizen themselves or doesn't have a green card, they're going to have to go to court individually to challenge and contest the violation of their child's right, rather than it being a blanket injunction on every potential case that could happen.
Yet again, a major victory for President Trump. Madeline Somerville joining us, trial attorney and political strategist right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your patience, Madeline.
No problem. Thank you all so much.
You're welcome. Well, yet again, earlier today, as you just heard me make mention, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Montgomery County, Maryland parents who objected on religious grounds to the use of books by LGBTQ characters in elementary schools. Now, parents who sued argued they wanted to be able to pull their children out of the lessons using those books. Justices in all ruled 6-3, with 3 liberal justices dissenting. Joining us now is a parent of a Montgomery County child, and quite honestly, a parent who is heaping mad, to say the least. I'm referring to Mr. Adam Zimmerman, yet again joining us on the Live Zone. Mr. Zimmerman, thank you as well for being patient and for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Guy, for having me.
All right, so let's jump into this. Obviously, as you heard me just make mention, you are not happy with this ruling. Yet again, 6-3 with the liberal justices dissenting. We got a chance to speak earlier off air, and one of the things that you stated to me is, how could this happen?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, as you mentioned, it's a 6-3 case, and I think those 6 justices are the only winners here. The losers in this case are all 160,000 plus students in the Montgomery County School District, which is the largest in Maryland. It's one of the most diverse school districts in the entire country. And the message being sent today in our district's name to schools across the country is that LGBTQ kids are the other. And exposure, quote unquote, to those kids is something that we need to protect other kids from. And when you send that sort of intolerant message out to a young child, and that message sticks with that child, the ramifications are felt across a lifetime. So I think it's a disastrous ruling. And as the parent of 2 children in MCPS who has seen the value of inclusive teachings in our school district, I think it's a very sad day for all of us here.
Adam, it's obvious the president disagrees with you. He's stating, quote, this is a great ruling for parents. Furthermore, he stated that he was surprised that it actually had to go this far. You just made mention that you happen to be the parents of not one, but two children. Do you plan on having a conversation with your children about this? And if so, what will you say?
So, Guy, I can tell you that, with my kids having grown up in this school district, since they were in kindergarten, we've talked about the fact that all children are different and all children deserve to be loved and respected. And just because we grow up in a certain way or feel a certain way, that doesn't mean that it's any better or worse than how anybody else does. It's just different. And, we're a Jewish family, and Jewish people for centuries, even thousands of years, have been subjected to the idea that we are different. We're not the same as everybody else. We are people to be protected from. And that idea of the other can lead to all sorts of negative consequences for those children. LGBTQ youth in this country, Guy, are at 4 times higher risk of suicide compared to other children. It's not because they're inherently predisposed to having suicidal thoughts. It's because they're constantly barraged with discrimination and exclusion and being told that they're the other. And so when you have situations like this, where the Supreme Court is saying to school districts that, God forbid, you teach a lesson with a book that includes LGBTQ characters, that some students may need to be protected from that. I question any religion that speaks to children in such an intolerant way. That's not the message we should be delivering to our kids.
Obviously, Adam, this will be written into law, and so we'll end with this, and that is, what do you plan to do next, if anything?
So I think when it comes to my own kids, it's just continuing to spread the message of tolerance and understanding and empathy, and understanding, again, that just because we grew up in a certain way, or that they may love someone in a certain way or have a certain identity, none of that is better or worse than anybody else. It's just different. And I think so. What parents need to do here is keep your children in that classroom. Allow your children to read books that feature characters that may be different than they are. Plant the seed of tolerance, not intolerance. And if we can continue to do that, that's, I think, the best way to fight back against a ruling like this.
Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. Adam Zimmerman. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. Make it a great day.